there's a lot of question, Bob, about is everybody suited to be an entrepreneur? And my personal take on this is I have my vision board that I drew when I was 20, and it's still right in front of my desk. And this story of understanding how one grows from the bottom and right to the peak determines an entrepreneur's journey.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon podcast. So today we have a special guest. So I was just telling him we talk to business leaders in Asia. And we have to have him because he is the founder and chairman of Entrepreneurship Foundation Malaysia, otherwise known as Yayasan Usahawan Malaysia. And we will talk about entrepreneurship today. He also has his own company, right? He is the group CEO of ENVIRO GROUP. So Nitesh Malani, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for having me this
Yes,
morning.
and before we started this interview, we actually had a chat offline and we talked about a lot of things, entrepreneurship, etc. So maybe let me start this question to you. So being the founder and chairman of Entrepreneurship Foundation, who is your favorite entrepreneur?
Oh, wow. That's a difficult question, Bob. I think one of my favorite entrepreneurs, if you were to zoom down to one, is someone like Elon Musk. I look up at Elon Musk as an entrepreneur simply because of his agility to work on various stuff over the years, and whatever that he has worked on, he has put in nothing less than 100%. So if you look at the core characteristics of an entrepreneur, I think you need to be agile, you need to be versatile, you need to understand how do you grow a business, and work on various hurdles that comes your way.
Yeah, I love Elon Musk also. I look up to him. He's, I would say, a very not so traditional entrepreneur, right? He has done things that affects his stock price, his board, and got into trouble with the law a few times. What are your thoughts on that?
I think as an entrepreneur, Bob, I think what we spoke earlier as well over a chat, an entrepreneur needs to go through failures in order to recognize successes. We have seen so many entrepreneurs out there who only speak about successes, but I always tell people, what's your story? And this story of understanding how one grows from the bottom and right to the peak determines an entrepreneur's journey. This is very exciting. At YUM, over the years of running SEBA, we've launched our typical news magazine that's called the Asia Connects. That's into its 7th edition right now, where we hear stories of successful people and how did they manage and navigate different challenges as they went through their journey. I think COVID was a very good example of how businesses navigated these challenges. It was not sweet for everybody. Neither it was a journey that any business or any entrepreneurs out there would have even imagined coming to some of these challenges. And I think that determines the perseverance of a character of an individual, of how they navigate stuff like that. So if you ask me, yes, why did I say Elon Musk? There are so many people out there, certainly, but I like the character of Elon, and I've read his biography in and out, and I find him an individual who has done great stuff, challenged himself, continuously challenged his team to excel in whatever that they do.
Wow. And like you said, he has many challenges. Many people know of his failures as well. He has a lot of successes. He had last time I remember he had this idea to make the roof into solar and started that. And then now he moved on to other things. All entrepreneurs have, failures and challenges.
Sure. I think the point here is being agile. An entrepreneur could sell peanuts to an aeroplane, and these skills are very important. While education, social background, the idea to think out of the box remains some necessary skills. Nevertheless, we do not see that in generation that's coming out. Hence why you have a lot of soft skill training that's required, or upskilling programs. And we constantly speak to the younger generation to adopt various skills that are required to go out to the market. Now, there's a lot of question, Bob, about is everybody suited to be an entrepreneur? And my personal take on this is a yes and no. There are people who certainly are not born to be an entrepreneur. They would excel, typically being a supporting role in a success of an entrepreneur. So now identifying what's your core certainly becomes very important now than ever, because as we speak, I think we are looking at a globalized market. It's no more a very domestically driven market.
Yep.
We have been seeing post-pandemic lots of platforms, lots of tools that are already going against the human mankind. We have AIs, we have so many new age tools that are already in the market that allows one to look at the global market. For example, somebody who is doing training that's based in Malaysia could be doing training in New York tomorrow morning while being here and not physically flying 20 hours down to New York. So what stops him from conducting his business? One doing trading. Today you have concepts of drop shipping where you don't carry physical stocks. The only thing that you do good is marketing. So I think there's various new approaches of doing business today. We never saw this in the last maybe 3-4 years prior to COVID, because there was no need to. There was very domestic, very regional market access. But today I think the market, it's very global. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to understand some of these skills that are pertinent to ensure that you have success.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my take on that.
Yes, funny you mentioned these challenges, and you mentioned COVID as well. Me personally, during COVID, where I was forced to go online. I was in the training industry before COVID, and I used to do in-person trainings and do in-person consulting. I was forced, I learned how to do my first online webinar, and forced me to get international clients. I remember during COVID, I was looking at which markets were open, which market was still okay, and forced me to get my first Singapore client that time, first US client, all during COVID, forced me to do things. And these challenges, like you said, make an entrepreneur. So how about yourself? What challenges have you faced, being the CEO and also founder?
That's interesting, Bob. I started ENVIRO Group 20 years ago. The challenges that I faced were from partnerships, failures of my first partnership. I went on, built my company again, stronger and better. Then it came to growing the revenue of that company. Certainly, it was a point of where do you get capital from? Being somebody so young and going into the market, I think capital was one of the major factors. I borrowed some money from the family to start ENVIRO Group, and that's how ENVIRO started. And we were lucky. We were positioned in the right place. We worked hard, and we grew 300% in the first 3 years, and that allowed us to certainly go into a market that I had to educate people for 3 hours of what exact business we are doing. It was not something, because indoor air quality was not a subject matter that many looked at as an importance 17 years ago. And I was asked a couple of times by the media then. I remember the Star doing a interview with me. Why did I choose to go into the air quality business? Because looking at the market then, water quality was something that was of importance of everybody. Every home, every offices had a water purifier because they understood our waters that are being supplied are not as clean, and they needed clean water. And so eventually, I think there would be a time where people will have to pay for clean air. So we went into the business. We invested a lot. We brought in some good technical expertise then. And we certainly grew organically into the sphere of building engineering, building sciences, and we became the pioneer in the industry at that point of time. A lot of competitors today are graduates of Enviro. I'm happy to say that we have created our own competitors. But I think this is something an entrepreneur always talks about and laughs about. You can't stop competition. And I, for one, certainly says every competition is an advantage to you if you look at it in the right way, because competition drives innovation. And if you don't have competition, then you become very stagnant. You don't try and be better, and look at how do you grow your business, or look into new markets or new technologies. Certainly, we have had a lot of our ex-employees who have gone out, learned from us, and thereafter starting off their own. I certainly wish them well in every point that we have done work, but it's a constant battle that most entrepreneurs go through, and I, for one, have gone through that over the last 19, 20 years of setting up Enviro. We have had fair shares of failures, and the failures were a point of where we could not pay our payrolls, and we had to call in our core team into my meeting room and says, guys, we don't have money to pay salaries. And typically I told my employees then, you hold my finger and I'll hold your hand. And we had a core team of people who stood by me and says, it's okay, Nitesh, we will excel and we will do well. Forget about the salary. Let's find for business. Eventually, I think in the next 3 months, we secured a pretty large project, and I think everybody who held my finger was compensated fairly, extremely well, and today they are all still with me.
Yeah, and we will flash a photo of your team as well. I have a photo later. We'll put on like your Chinese New Year dinner this year.
Yeah.
And I believe you said agile just now, and I believe during COVID you also expanded your services as well during the COVID times.
Yes, Bob. COVID was extremely good for us. In comparison to many others, we were blessed because we were in the business, like I said, for more than 19, 20 years. We understood what COVID was. The team was ready to go to the battleground. We were then consulted by key government officials, ministries, of how do they manage this pandemic. So with a lot of knowledge, technical expertise, know who, know how, that allowed us to go into the market and support clients out there in order to prevent the spread of the virus. So yes, COVID was pretty exciting a time for us. I would say that 2 years we didn't work from home because we were essential services providing sanitization, test kits, air purification devices. So yes, we were busy and we were glad that our team was extremely on the ground. We in fact employed, I think our HR went up by maybe 200% during the pandemic. So we hired people. Certainly the challenge is hiring so many people, gearing up. What next? What are you going to do post-COVID? We had to let go some people who became irrelevant to post-COVID. That was our challenge at Enviro. But certainly we have now gone into the area of IoT, bringing technology towards innovation in the area of building sciences. So that's our current focus with Enviro right now, automating a lot of processes using sensors, using smart technologies that's available. And that's what Enviro's focus would be in the next year.
Yeah, it's good to see that now. It's like award winning from not being able to make payroll, like you said. Now it's award winning, and you have a good team as well around it.
Yes.
So that's a great achievement. And next, I'd like to talk about, of course, the Entrepreneurship Foundation, Yayasan Usahawan Malaysia. So how did it come about? What made you found this foundation?
Interesting, Bob. I think in Malaysia, while I was actively involved in politics, not many people would probably know I was actively involved in politics. And the day I decided to walk out of politics, certainly there was a base. Being an entrepreneur myself, having struggles, having challenges, we and a group of friends decided to start a a association. But in that point of time, we thought, hey, let's set a foundation instead. So we registered the name Yayasan Usahawan Malaysia, or in English, it's called Entrepreneurship Foundation of Malaysia. That was, I think, 14 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 13, 14 years ago. Exciting journey. We did an extensive paper for the government. There were more than 80 to 90 organizations within the government structure facilitating work on SMEs, entrepreneurs, SMIs, and businesses across the board. The challenge then was, where do I go? What do I do? So this was the proposal that we did to Ministry of Finance then. How can YUM be that focal point? How can we facilitate and help the government in order to streamline some of these processes? Nevertheless, due to various challenges, we didn't work with the government then, or as in Ministry of Finance. We did a lot of back end, connecting the dots, training, mentoring with entrepreneurs out there. Me and a couple of the board members then would sit down, perhaps spend 5-6 hours a week to speak to younger entrepreneurs. How can we facilitate their progression? And that's what we did in the first initial couple of years. 2015, we were approached by a group of guys who says, I think YUM needs to have a recognition platform. And that was the born of SEBA. Originally or at onset called SME and Entrepreneurs Business Awards.
Oh, that's how it came out.
Yes. Yeah. So it was focused towards SME, SMIs, and entrepreneurs. So what we call it today, entrepreneurs and enterprises. So a platform that recognizes both. You can be an entrepreneur running a small business, but you can be an enterprise that can be as big as a listed company, right? So that was our focus, basically to grow the ecosystem and to provide a legit recognition platform. Certainly, we had to navigate the point of where do we go out and look for funding, and that's when we were blessed and we were lucky to find sponsors in larger organizations. And also we have worked with the likes of Celcom, Maxis, Standard Chartered, BMW, Honda, Sun Life Malaysia. So these have been our corporate partners over the years that have supported the focus of SEBA. And SEBA is celebrating its 11th interim in the coming July, and we're going to change and be different. Where it's not a 2 hours award dinner, collect your award, go back home. We're trying to bring the region to a mystical island called Langkawi.
Wow.
Right? So it's going to be held in Langkawi, July 4, 5, 6. And interestingly, the target here is to bring different stakeholders. You need not be an awardee. You could be a participant. It's going to have various master classes. It's going to have it's a HRD claimable event to attend. So come and 2.5 days, 2 nights, 3 days, I would say, an entrepreneurs retreat. That's what we are branding it as. And we're going to bring people not only towards the northern states of Malaysia, but we're going to go up to Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and China.
Wow.
So this is going to be a retreat that I think has not been seen by Malaysians especially. But we invite everyone to come and partake in this amazing retreat at the Westin Langkawi.
Wow, sounds exciting.
Sure, it's going to be fun, and this is what we want to change the way recognition and the way entrepreneurs network with one another.
Yeah, for the audience, you can see, Nitesh has a pin here, right, on his coat. That's the SEBA logo there, and yes, perfect branding there. So before we came online, you also mentioned, so there's a lot of awards out there, a lot of business awards, and you mentioned to us how is it different than other awards. Maybe you can share that as well.
I think everybody has their own focus areas and strength. I typically wouldn't ever say that one is better than the other. SEBA has distinctively differentiated ourselves by putting in a lot of check and balances and recognition through merits. We have a very esteemed board of advisory that has been set up. And this board of advisory are very active in determining who are the recipients that are recognized every year.
Yeah.
So I would say that money doesn't drive us. I'm not saying money drives others, but very importantly, I think recognition has to be done on merits. So most of our nomination processes that goes through our online SEBA.Asia is the link, and once you go through that, yes, there are certain fees on the nomination process that covers the cost, where we have organizations like Cheng and Co. Doing the back end facilitation of these processes. At the same time, there's administrative fee that we need to cover. So as far as YUM is concerned, we are very clear on how these monies are spent and where does it go into, right? So we are not a media house, like I told you, Bob.
Yeah.
My core business is not into media, and neither awards is a business that I personally focused on. But I think there's a lot of passion towards building entrepreneurs, and I love Malaysia as a country, and I want to see in a very soon, I would say that we at Malaysia becomes the hub of entrepreneurs, right? And you can just focus on any sort of business, as far as I think lately in the last week, if we saw KL20 being launched.
Yeah. I was there too.
By you there, yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. I think KL20 was a good platform that was launched by the Prime Minister. Perhaps this is a start to something a bit more bigger. And with KL20, I think the focus has been on VCs, digital, but I'm saying conventional businesses such as manufacturing, or even I think raw minerals. We do have a huge potential in looking at that. On a demographic point of view, I think Malaysia is well positioned within ASEAN. Malaysia is the ASEAN chair in 2025.
Yes.
Very interesting to see how we are able to move up towards this ecosystem using ASEAN as a leapfrog towards other markets. Interestingly, we have also seen in the last 6 months to a year, on a global demographics, the war, the tension that's happening in different parts of the world, and I think these are advantages that we as a country should take up, and I call upon most entrepreneurs out there. Come on board. Let's see what we can do and to position our businesses, ourselves to a greater market share.
Awesome. So thanks, Nitesh, for coming here and sharing with us today. So a lot of my audience, so like I shared with you, we are planning to be the Asia business podcast for the region. So a lot of our audience are business leaders, whether it's on YouTube or LinkedIn. So what is your advice for entrepreneurs, especially here in Malaysia? And you said the climate, you said that with the fall of the ringgit, everything is happening this year. So what is your advice?
Always think positive,
Yep.
and I think having a vision board is a must. I meet a lot of young entrepreneurs, and when I ask them, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, and they have no clue.
Oh.
And if you don't have such vision of 3 to 5 years, what are you talking about in the next 20 years? So having very clear, definite vision was my personal journey in entrepreneurship. I was very clear what I wanted, and I have my vision board that I drew when I was 20, and it's still right in front of my desk of what I wanted. If I want to buy something, I capture a picture and I put it right in front of my desk. I have a big board on my table, and it's right there. So I think navigating the journey towards a focus is one of the most important criteria that drives one to success. Now, success does not mean money. Being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you need to be worth 100 million. But I think defining key aspects of being a successful entrepreneur has to be defined in the correct way based on your personal needs and wants. I think that's my personal opinion on that.
Yep.
Right? I tell people, you don't need to be worth tens of millions to be successful.
Mm.
I mean, we know people who are worth tens of millions, but they're not happy.
Mm. Yeah.
That's the point,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about our favorite entrepreneur, Elon. Is he a happy man?
yeah.
We don't know, but he's probably the richest man in the world right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos,
Mm.
yeah, lots of money,
Mm.
but is it what it takes to become
Mm.
successful? So success here, I think, means a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, as an entrepreneur, I think it's living a legacy.
Mm.
That's what I personally would leave, and why I do at SEBA,
Yeah.
why I do what I do.
Yeah.
It's a legacy,
Mm.
and that would be my definition of what an entrepreneur is all about.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. May I ask, what was on your vision board when you were 20?
Oh wow! It was a BMW convertible that was there when I was 20. I achieved that when I was 26.
Oh.
So after that, what next? And I always thought a Mercedes S-Class was a car only meant for the rich. And I achieved that when I was 42.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these are things that you look up at. And these are materialistic items, but there may be many who are not materialistic in terms of successes of what you think you or people you want to meet, places you want to visit. I always told myself as a young kid, I want to visit all the wonders in the world.
Wow.
I haven't done all, but I think I've done 80% of those.
Wow.
Right. So these are very clear, definite goals that I think each and every one of you out there need to understand and enjoy it. And perhaps if you can share it with another friend, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever you think would keep on reminding you. And I think being center is the most important thing, right? Money at times, including me and many others, deviates our course. We lose direction. But I personally say that I have lost nearly everything twice throughout my short span of life. And how do you rebound?
Yeah.
How do you rejuvenate out of this? It's easier said than done, surely, but I've done it. And I'm sure many others can.
Oh.
And having the right mentality, the right spirit is the key.
Yeah. That's why I love doing this podcast, because it allows me to talk to entrepreneurs like yourself. For me, every business, every entrepreneur is a miracle. Like you said, you almost lost everything twice. When you have a business and it's profitable and it's sustaining, that to me itself is already a
So I
success.
think what we just said, right?
Yeah.
In my definition of entrepreneurs, if you haven't seen failure, you're not an entrepreneur as yet. Work harder.
Yes, right. Thank you, Nitesh, for
Thank you,
coming
Bob.
on. And today, we also like to thank our venue sponsor. Sharon was briefly here. So this is Iconic Co-working, and it is actually a home of a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses as well. So you can do trainings here. You can, they have, we are shooting here for the podcast. You can work here and you can set up your office here as well. So thank you, Iconic Co-working, for having us and letting us use the space. Thank you again, Nitesh, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.